Have you ever felt that your daily routine, no matter how organized or seemingly successful, carries within it a strange emptiness? Imagine yourself driving to work, going through the same traffic lights, seeing the same faces, and yet, in a quiet corner of your mind, a whisper rises. Is this really all there is? Most people quickly silence this question with distractions, deadlines, or responsibilities. But if you are here, listening to this message, it is because this question is no longer a nuisance to be pushed aside. It has become a call you cannot ignore. Carl Jung, one of the most influential thinkers of the 20th century, believed that these subtle disturbances are not accidents. They are signals that your soul is trying to wake you from the dream of conformity. Jung called this process individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming who you truly are, beyond masks, beyond social expectations, beyond the shallow promises of modern culture. And here lies the first sign that your soul is awakening: the quiet, persistent dissatisfaction with a life that looks fine on the surface but feels hollow beneath. Have you noticed it? That nagging sense that your achievements do not carry the weight you thought they would, that pleasures fade too quickly, that relationships sometimes feel like rehearsed scripts rather than genuine encounters. This is not a flaw in you, it is not failure, it is the very first whisper of transformation. When you feel that unease, it is not depression pulling you down. It is your deeper self knocking at the door, urging you to look beyond the narrow circle of survival and comfort. Most people numb it with noise, but the ones who dare to listen are the ones who begin to walk the path of their soul. In the next few minutes, we will uncover 9 signs, drawn from Jung's insights, that reveal you might already be on this journey, often without even realizing it. Each sign is both a challenge and an invitation, a mirror that reflects not who you are now, but who you are meant to become. So I ask you, have you felt that whisper inside? If so, stay with me. And before we begin, I invite you to share in the comments if you have ever experienced this subtle dissatisfaction, this strange restlessness that no external achievement seems to cure. And of course, if you find resonance here, do not forget to like this video and subscribe, so you can continue uncovering the deeper path within. What if that quiet unease you feel is not a burden to be eliminated, but a seed planted deep within you? What if, instead of a sign that something is wrong, it is proof that something greater is trying to emerge? Imagine for a moment that your life is not a random sequence of events, but a carefully woven journey. One in which every frustration, every disappointment, every unanswered question is preparing the ground for your soul's awakening. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a vast forest. Behind you lies the familiar path, predictable, safe, but suffocating in its repetition. In front of you stretches the unknown, full of uncertainty, but also full of promise. Most people turn back, preferring the safety of what they know. But what if you decided just once to take a step forward? What if that restlessness you feel is not something to be cured, but a compass pointing you toward that forest of possibilities? Jung reminds us that the soul does not speak in the language of logic, but in symbols, dreams, and subtle feelings. That nagging dissatisfaction is not a problem. It is a message. It is life itself whispering that you are capable of more than the script handed to you by family, society, or circumstance. To feel restless is to be alive enough to sense that your destiny is not yet fulfilled. Now imagine another scenario. What if you could look back, years from now, and realize that the moment you began listening to that inner call was the moment everything changed? Not because your circumstances instantly improved, but because you finally aligned with something deeper, something true. How different would your days feel if you believed that the discomfort you carry is not punishment, but guidance? This is the paradox we will explore together. Your frustration is not the end of the story, it is the beginning. Your longing is not a weakness, it is the soul awakening. Each of the 9 signs we will uncover is like a torch, lighting your way through that dark forest. So let me ask you, if the emptiness you feel is actually a doorway, do you have the courage to step through it? Take a breath. Imagine your life, shaped not by fear, but by this deeper calling. Hold that vision in your mind as we move forward. This is not theory. It is the beginning of your transformation. We are taught from childhood that success has a clear recipe. Study hard, build a career, buy the house, Find the partner, raise the family, and if possible, retire with comfort. Society tells us that if we follow this formula, fulfillment will naturally follow. But here is the disruptive truth. This promise is an illusion. Many reach those milestones only to find themselves staring at the ceiling at night, wondering why the inner void still lingers. Carl Jung insisted that what most people call normal is often nothing more than collective hypnosis. We play roles that keep the system running, but in the process, we sacrifice the authentic voice of our own soul. This is why so many people look successful yet feel profoundly lost. They have achieved what others expected of them, but not what their inner self was truly asking for. Here lies the rupture. The discomfort you feel is not proof of failure. It is proof of awakening. The normal life that culture glorifies is not enough to satisfy the depth of your existence. And this is not arrogance. It is a sign of spiritual maturity. You are beginning to see what others may never dare to admit, that living only for external approval or material comfort slowly kills the vitality of the soul. Think about it. How many people do you know who have everything they once dreamed of, yet still confess they are unhappy? This is the mask of normalcy cracking. To awaken is to realize that the life you were told to pursue is not necessarily the life that will nourish you. The chase for status, recognition, or possessions can distract for a while, but it cannot answer the deeper question, who am I really? Jung believed that ignoring this question leads to neurosis, addiction, and despair. But embracing it leads to individuation, the path of becoming whole. This is why the moment of rupture, though uncomfortable, is sacred. It shatters the illusion that comfort equals meaning. So if you feel that life as you know it is no longer enough, do not mistake it for weakness. It is a profound invitation. You are not breaking down, you are breaking free. And this realization, unsettling as it is, marks the true beginning of your soul's journey. The path is no longer about fitting in. It is about waking up. Whenever we dare to question the so-called normal life, doubt quickly creeps in. We wonder, am I just being ungrateful? Maybe I should accept things as they are and stop complicating my existence. These thoughts are powerful because society trains us to equate doubt with weakness. But Carl Jung, one of the most respected psychologists of the modern era, saw things differently. He believed that doubt is often the first sign of authentic growth. Jung observed that the human psyche is not merely a product of biology or social conditioning. Within each of us exists what he called the self, the organizing principle that seeks wholeness. And when we ignore this inner center, symptoms begin to appear: anxiety, emptiness, recurring dreams, strange longings. To Jung, these were not malfunctions. They were messages from the deeper self, urging us to realign our lives with something truer. This is where we can take comfort. The restlessness you feel has been studied, validated, and respected by some of the greatest thinkers of the 20th century. You are not crazy or broken for wanting something more. In fact, philosophers and poets long before Jung echoed the same idea. The Greek philosopher Socrates said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." Dostoevsky, in his novels, portrayed characters tormented by emptiness when they tried to silence their conscience. These voices across history remind us that to feel restless is not a failure, it is to be profoundly human. When you anchor your experience in this lineage of wisdom, your perspective shifts. Instead of dismissing your unease as a flaw, you begin to see it as evidence that you are stepping into a universal journey. One walked by seekers, philosophers, mystics, and everyday people who refuse to remain asleep. Think about it. If Jung, Socrates, and Dostoevsky all warned us about the dangers of ignoring the soul, what does it mean that you are feeling this call now? It means you are not alone. It means there is nothing shameful about your dissatisfaction. On the contrary, it connects you with a timeless community of human beings who dared to ask for more than survival. So the next time you feel that doubt rising, remember, it is not weakness. It is authority speaking from within, the voice of your deeper self, echoing what great minds have always known. Your soul is summoning you forward, and you are finally beginning to listen. Most of us move through life believing that our choices are entirely our own. We decide where to work, whom to love, what goals to pursue. But Carl Jung revealed a deeper truth. Much of what we call choice is quietly shaped by unconscious patterns. These hidden dynamics formed by childhood experiences, cultural expectations, and unhealed wounds often guide our steps more than conscious intention ever does. Have you noticed how you repeat the same mistakes in relationships, even when you swear you will not? Or how you chase new achievements only to feel the same emptiness afterward? These are not coincidences. They are patterns at work, replaying themselves until you finally see them. Jung called this the shadow, the repressed parts of ourselves that, when ignored, secretly control us. This is why so many people feel trapped without knowing why. On the surface, everything seems fine, but inside, they sense an invisible weight holding them back. That is because the shadow does not disappear simply by being ignored. It waits. It leaks through behaviors, sabotages dreams, and manifests as unexplained dissatisfaction. To awaken to your soul's journey is to finally notice these hidden threads shaping your life. And here is the liberating truth. Once you see a pattern, you are no longer its prisoner. Awareness is the first act of freedom. The moment you catch yourself repeating an old script, seeking validation, avoiding conflict, sabotaging intimacy, you create space for a new choice. The unconscious becomes conscious, and transformation begins. But this is not easy work. To face the shadow means confronting the parts of ourselves we would rather keep buried. It means admitting that our struggles are not random, but meaningful. Yet Jung insisted this confrontation is necessary, because wholeness cannot be built on denial. To awaken is not to polish a perfect mask, but to integrate the rejected parts of who we are. So let me ask you, what patterns do you see repeating in your life? Where do you feel trapped in cycles that never seem to change? These are not failures. They are clues. They are the handwriting of your shadow, guiding you towards self-discovery. To notice them is to step closer to the truth. And in that recognition, you begin to realize that the invisible has been shaping your destiny all along. There are moments when a single phrase has the power to pierce through years of confusion. Jung often spoke in this way, short, sharp statements that reveal an entire world in just a few words. Let us draw from that same clarity now, because sometimes truth must be simple to be unforgettable. Here are some cutting insights that mark the awakening of the soul. What you resist does not vanish, it grows. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. The greatest tragedy is not failure, but living a life that was never truly yours. Your wounds are not the end of your story. They are the doorway to your depth. Wholeness is not perfection. It is the courage to embrace your shadow. These are not just poetic lines. They are anchors, fragments of wisdom you can carry into your daily life. Each one dismantles a false belief that keeps us trapped. For example, think of the second statement. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. How often do we blame luck, destiny, or bad timing when in truth it is our unexamined patterns pulling the strings? The moment we recognize this, fate is no longer a blind force. It becomes something we can work with. Or consider the idea that your wounds are the doorway to your depth. Most of us spend our lives running from pain, pretending it does not exist. But the awakening soul begins to realize that pain carries meaning. It forces us to ask questions we would otherwise avoid. It cracks the mask and reveals what is essential. What once looked like defeat can, in retrospect, become the beginning of transformation. These sentences may sound small, but their power lies in repetition. Let them echo inside you. Let them interrupt your autopilot. Write them down, speak them to yourself, and notice how they begin to change the way you see your struggles. A phrase that strikes deeply can become like a seed lodged in the soul. You may forget it for days or weeks, but suddenly it surfaces at the exact moment you need it, cutting through confusion like light in a dark room. And in that instant, your perspective shifts. And with it, the entire direction of your life. Here is a truth few dare to confront. Awakening is not a straight path upward. It is a paradox. On one hand, you begin to sense more meaning, more connection, more vitality. On the other, you may feel more disoriented, lonely, or misunderstood than ever before. This is not a contradiction. It is the nature of transformation. Carl Jung emphasized that individuation, the journey of the soul, requires holding tension between opposites: light and shadow, strength and vulnerability, freedom and responsibility. The paradox is that growth does not come by choosing one side and rejecting the other, but by embracing both and allowing them to coexist within you. Think about this. The moment you begin to awaken, you may feel joy in discovering your deeper self, but also grief for the years you lived inauthentically. You may feel excitement for the future, but also fear of losing relationships that were built on your old identity. Awakening expands you, but it also stretches you into discomfort. This duality is everywhere. To truly love, you must risk loss. To find your voice, you must endure misunderstanding. To live authentically, you must accept rejection. The paradox is not a barrier. It is proof that you are growing. If everything feels easy, you are likely still asleep. Awakening carries a cost, but it also offers a reward no comfort can replace: the experience of being fully alive. Jung warned against the temptation of one-sidedness, the belief that life can be reduced to positivity, success, or comfort alone. That is not wholeness, but denial. Wholeness means owning both your light and your shadow, your dreams and your fears, your strength and your wounds. Only then do you step into the richness of your humanity. So the next time you feel torn between contradictory emotions, resist the urge to escape or choose prematurely. Instead, pause and hold both realities in your heart. This tension is the crucible where transformation happens. The paradox of awakening is this: the very discomfort you wish to escape is the proof you are on the path. Your confusion is not failure, it is the birthplace of wisdom. To walk the journey of the soul is to accept that truth and contradiction can live side by side, shaping you into someone more whole, more human, and more alive than you ever imagined. If the journey of the soul demands that we carry paradox, embrace the shadow, and face discomfort, then why take it at all? Why not remain in the comfort of routine where life is predictable, even if it feels shallow? The answer is simple: because the reward of awakening is unlike anything ordinary life can offer. Carl Jung described the process of individuation not as self-improvement, but as self-realization, the unfolding of who you truly are. And when you walk this path, something extraordinary happens. Life begins to feel meaningful again, not in the superficial sense of constant happiness, but in the profound sense that every experience, joy or pain, carries weight and significance. Think about it. When you start listening to your inner voice, your relationships shift. They become less about pleasing others and more about genuine connection. Your work changes, not necessarily in form, but in the depth of intention you bring to it. Even ordinary moments like sitting in silence or walking through nature feel charged with presence. The reward is not escape from struggle, but the discovery of a deeper purpose within the struggle itself. This is why people who awaken often describe a strange mixture of simplicity and depth in their lives. They may not have everything society celebrates, but they radiate something rare: authenticity. And authenticity brings freedom. No more constant pretending, no more chasing approval, no more wearing masks that exhaust the soul. Of course, this path does not erase pain, but here lies the miracle. Pain itself begins to transform. What once felt meaningless now becomes a teacher. Your wounds stop being sources of shame and begin to guide you toward compassion, resilience, and wisdom. The scars remain, but they no longer define you. They empower you. So what is the reward of awakening? It is the quiet joy of knowing you are living truthfully. It is the strength of facing life without illusions. It is the peace of realizing that even your suffering has meaning. And above all, it is the courage of stepping into the fullness of who you are meant to be. The soul's journey may be demanding, but its reward is the very thing every restless heart is searching for: a life that feels real, purposeful, and alive. Every deep transformation needs more than inspiration. It needs a structure to make sense of the chaos. Carl Jung gave us such a framework. He showed that the soul's awakening is not random, but follows a pattern as old as humanity itself. This pattern is the process of individuation. the lifelong path of integrating all parts of the self into a greater whole. At the foundation lies the ego, the conscious identity we build to navigate society. It is necessary, but limited. Beyond it lies the shadow, all the repressed desires, fears, and truths we refuse to see. Deeper still, we encounter the anima or animus, the inner opposite, our hidden feminine if we are men, our hidden masculine if we are women. These forces pull us toward balance, and beyond them all there is the self, the unifying center, the deepest truth of who we are, the image of wholeness that our soul longs to embody. When you feel restless, when dissatisfaction gnaws at you, it is often the shadow knocking, demanding to be seen. When you feel drawn to qualities you admire in others, strength, tenderness, creativity, it is often the anima or animus calling, asking you to integrate what you have denied. And when you feel both lost and strangely guided at the same time, it is the self reaching out, pulling you toward the life you were meant to live. This is why Jung insisted that the journey of the soul is not about self-improvement in the shallow sense. It is not about becoming better in the eyes of others. It is about becoming whole, integrating the fragments of your psyche into harmony. Wholeness does not mean perfection. It means nothing essential is left out. Understanding this framework helps you see your struggles differently. That recurring frustration in your relationships? Perhaps it is the shadow exposing what you have repressed. That deep longing for something undefined. Perhaps it is the self stirring within you. These experiences, once seen as problems, become signposts. They are not obstacles, but invitations. So the 9 signs we have explored are not isolated curiosities. They are expressions of this deeper structure. Each one is part of a universal journey, a timeless process through which countless souls have walked before you. Knowing this, you no longer wander aimlessly. You walk with a map, not of external roads, but of the inner landscape of the human soul. We have walked through 9 signs of awakening, drawn from the wisdom of Carl Jung, and each one has revealed a profound truth. Your restlessness is not a flaw, but a signal. Your dissatisfaction is not weakness, but a doorway. The patterns, paradoxes, and struggles you face are not random. They are part of the deeper structure of individuation, the lifelong process of becoming whole. Now you stand at a threshold. You can dismiss these signs as mere ideas and return to the comfort of routine. Or you can recognize them for what they are. Invitations. Invitations to step into the forest of your soul, to face the shadow, to embrace paradox, and to claim the reward of living authentically. This journey will not promise you endless happiness, nor will it shield you from pain. But it will give you something infinitely greater, meaning. And meaning is what allows you to endure, to transform, and to radiate strength in a world that often feels adrift. Meaning is what turns wounds into wisdom, failures into teachers, and confusion into the soil of clarity. So I ask you now, do you recognize yourself in these signs? Have you felt the whisper of your soul calling you beyond the ordinary? If you have, then you are already on the path. The journey has begun, even if quietly, even if in secret. But awakening is not meant to be walked alone. That is why this space exists, to share reflections, to remind you that you are not isolated in your struggle, and to give language to the experiences you may not have been able to name. Together, we form a community of seekers, each daring to live more truthfully than the world expects. If these words have resonated with you, I invite you to leave a comment sharing which sign spoke to you most deeply. Your reflection may be exactly what another soul needs to hear. And if you wish to continue exploring this path with us, remember to like this video and subscribe. Each step, each insight, each story brings us closer to a life of depth, courage, and authenticity. The awakening of the soul is not a destination. It is a way of being. And now, with eyes open and heart steady, the question is no longer if you will walk this path, but how. The door has been opened. The rest is yours to live.